Alright, so let's see if I can do this with the camera so that way you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so now number one, the first thing that a lot of people have a lot of problem is not everyone is squaring their paper properly. Not everyone is putting the T-square all the way to the edge. You got to make sure that your T-square is touching the edge. Okay, if you rest it right here, that's not serving any purpose. You can't tell whether it's you're squaring it or not, because you need the reference edge of the drawing board. So you take your T-square and you're going to have it flat against the side. Right, next, you're going to take your paper and the top line of your title block, you're going to make it parallel with the edge of your T-square. Okay, once you make it parallel with the edge of the T-square, you're going to go ahead and tape down the top. Okay, next I want you guys to take your T-square and remove all the air. It's kind of like when you're making your bed and you want to pull the sheets nice and tight so it stays firm and it looks good. Okay, so you're going to remove all the air, you're going to make it nice and flat, and at the same time you're going to re-check to make sure that that top line is parallel with your T-square. Okay, good. We've got that part down. Okay, now, so we're trying to do 3 orthographic projection of this image right here. Okay, normally orthographic projection you get 6 views. Here we only need 3 to make the object. Alright, so you don't need the right and the left side, you don't need the front and the back, okay, or the top and the bottom. Generally you need the top, one side and another. Okay, so the top, the left side and the front. For our purposes, I'm calling this part right here the front, I'm calling this part the left side, and I'm calling this the top. Okay, so I'm going to sketch out what I want my top, my left, and my front to look. So my top, okay, if I was in a helicopter looking straight down at this object, what would I see? Well, if I was in a helicopter looking straight down, I would see something that looks like this. Okay, so from here to here is 6 inches, and I'll just kind of dimension it in real quick, rough it out. Okay, from here to here is 2 inches. And from here to here is 1 inch. So if I was in a helicopter looking straight down, I'd only be able to see this part and this part. Okay. Now if I was standing in front of this object and I'm looking to here, if this was like a really tall building and I'm standing here, well, what would I see? I'd probably only see this edge and this edge. So this would be my left view. Okay, and from here to here is 1 inch. Go ahead and put in that dimension. Okay, now one of the things about aircraft mechanical drawing in general is that you don't need too many dimensions. Okay, so we're going to see if we put in another object that we might be able to tell that this is 2 inches total. Okay, we can tell that this is 6 inches because the width are even, and if you draw it even on your paper, you'll be able to see that, right? So next is what does my front look like? My front basically looks like an L. Okay, my height here is 2 inches. And my width here is 3 inches. So now that I've looked at my object, I've determined which 3 views I want. I want my top, I want my left, and my front. Generally what it looks like, well now I'm going to decide how I'm going to take these 3 views and put it on my paper. Okay, so I showed you guys how to center the paper. For this project we're not going to center the paper, we just kind of like eyeball it, right? Does anyone have a scale? Borrow a scale real quick. Anyone have a scale, metal scale? Just quick. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Kenneth. Right, so I'm going to take a look and I'm going to say, well, 6 inches is the width, so 6 inches. My scale is 6 inches. The width I'm looking for is 6 inches. So I can place it here, and I'll probably still have enough room for my 3 inches here and going up, right? So I'm probably going to start my drawing kind of like maybe like roughly here. And in total I need about 5 inches. So this is about 5 inches. Yeah, so I'll have enough room. So what I'm going to do is, first things first, I'm going to make a horizontal guideline. Okay? Now I'm going to go up here. And notice when I make my guideline, it's going to be very light, and I just glide the pencil. You should barely be able to see any line was even drawn on the paper, right? Okay. And if I zoom in on it, you guys will be able to see. Let me zoom in on here. Okay. You guys see the line now that I just drew? Right? So it's barely there. Okay, it's barely there. That's what you want for a guideline. Okay, because later on, you're going to darken in your lines so that you can get only your object. Okay, so that's not bad. Next, I want a vertical guideline. So I'm going to use my T-square with my triangle. Again, I keep my T-square firm against the edge of my drawing board. I use my thumb to hold my T-square in place, and then I use my fingers to place my T-square, my triangle on top of my T-square. And then I'm going to glide, again, I'm going to glide my hand, okay, and draw a vertical guideline. I made that one a little bit darker. Can you guys see that one a little bit now? Yeah. Right, so that's my vertical guideline. That's actually too dark. When you're making your guidelines, you want it light so you can barely see it. So this way you can just darken your object lines later, right? So what I have is I have the starting point, okay, of a horizontal starting point and a vertical starting point. Okay, now I know that my total width of my object is 6 inches. So from here I'm going to measure over 6 inches. Put a small mark. And I'm going to take my, again, look how I keep my T-square firmly pressed against my drawing board. And I keep my fingers away from my edge so they don't interfere when I'm drawing. And I keep my fingers spread out. And I keep the triangle pressed firmly against the paper. And my guidelines, I draw my guidelines across my entire drawing area. So my drawing area is in between from my title block to the perimeter of my border, right? And I drew 2 long guidelines so that I have 6 inches measured across the entire paper. So when I do my bottom view and my top view, I already have my guidelines drawn in. You guys see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now next. So when I'm drawing my bottom view, I know from here to here is 1 inch and the total is 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those out. Okay, move my T-square out the way. And guys, notice how I move my equipment out the way. Okay, and I use it one at a time. Also clean the edges of your equipment. Okay, so the pencil markings, because when you write, you're going to get pencil markings on the edge of your scale and on the edge of your triangles. Wipe it on your apron. Okay, so when you wipe it on your apron, it removes those pencil markings so you don't smudge your paper. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to measure 2 inches to the top. I'm going to put a mark, and then I'm going to measure 1 inch. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take my T-square, and I'm going to draw horizontal guidelines. Notice my guidelines, my hands are firmly pulling the T-square against the edge. And notice how I slide up to the point, right? I slide up to the point, and I make a guideline across the entire paper. I slide up to the point, and I make the guideline across the entire paper. Why? Because this is the same measurements. The same measurements for my front view are for my left view. Okay? And I'm going to use the same guidelines to make both my left view and my front view. Okay? So now let's keep working up. So I'm going to leave a space, and we need about 3 inches in order to make our top view. Okay? So we see that we have 2 inch in one, we need 3. Okay, I'm just eyeballing this. I'm going to leave a space, and I'm going to mark in 3 inches. So I have the 3 inch mark and the starting point. And again, I'm going to make long guidelines. These guidelines are going to serve many different purposes. So you can make multiple images on the same page, and then your guidelines are going to become your extension lines, and you'll place your dimension lines in between. Okay, notice how I glide the pencil and I move my entire hand. I don't flick my wrists. Okay, when I hold the pencil, I hold it at an angle. I keep only the point touching, and I slide. Okay, now, so we have 3 inches. Okay, we measure up here 1 inch. Make one more guideline. Can I get a green circle guide? The green circle guide, which has the template. Can you rest right here, please? Thank you. Okay, and voila, I'm done. Now I just need to block in my object. Okay? So, last thing, I'm going to put in my lines for my front view. So my front view is 3 inches in total width. This is going to be my starting point. This is going to be my finishing point. And this is why we don't use mechanical pencils, is they break. Okay, I'm just doing it really quickly here. And I'm going to go ahead and go in and put in my vertical guidelines. Does anyone have a dark number 2 pencil I can borrow? That's sharpened, a sharpened dark number 2 pencil? Sharpened dark number 2 pencil? Yeah, pass that. Okay, so we've got all our guidelines. Now we just need to block in our images. Okay? So. Oh, I missed the line. Sorry guys, it's kind of hard to work around the camera. I missed the line. It's a lot easier when there's not a camera in front of you to work around. Okay, it's gonna be good enough. You guys get the main point of how I'm doing this. Okay, and we've got our front view, our top view, and our left view. Now our guidelines are going to become our dimension lines. And take a look. So all I'm doing is I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to draw a line, leave a space in the middle. Then I'm going to take my template. I'm going to use my arrows. I like this. I like using this one here. Okay, towards the bottom, the second one for my arrows. And I'm just going to go ahead and lock it in. Now I take the same one and I flip it around on the opposite side. Try to get these smudges off. I write in 6 inches. All right. Okay, now on here. Okay, then I do the same thing. Guys, can we keep the talking down, please? Okay, I write in 3 inches. I use my arrow. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in my dimensions. I'm sorry, but I fill in my template. And I'm going to put in all my dimensions. And that's how you dimension it. So I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to show you guys the almost finished product. But clearly you can see how my guidelines became extension lines. The only thing we would have to do is darken in. And again, keep your extension lines do not touch your object. Just gonna go ahead and fill in my extension lines. And generally, I would measure them and try to make them the same height, but I'm just doing this real quick so you can get the idea. And those are my extension lines, and those are my dimension lines. Okay? Yes?
Okay, how far do your drawings have to be from the ends?
Okay, there is really no specific measurement, but you can come and take my drawing and take the measurements from there. I did it by eye. Okay? And you guys can take a look at it. You just pretty much want it so that it doesn't crowd each other. Okay? So I'm going to stop the video right here, and I'll answer all your questions. But I'll try to post the video online so that you guys can go ahead and look at it and watch it how I did it.